What's up, guys and gals? Welcome back to the Nerd Castle for Weekly Indie Newcomer, our Friday series where we take a look at a little indie game that's been clanking around the tank over the course of the last week. This week, we're going to be taking a look at a Druid's Duel, which is actually kind of an interesting little board game slash video game hybrid that I think fans of games like Chinese checkers, chess, backgammon, those sorts of games, like old school games. I think people that like those sorts of games and want to play them competitively on the internet will find this to be a very, very entertaining title. If you wanted to check the game out after this episode, it's by Thought Shelter Games. As of right now, it hasn't released on Steam, but you can get it from the developers. It's available on the Mac, Windows, and Linux platforms, and it's available for $9.99. My assumption is that if you buy it from the developers right now, you will get a Steam key later on when it comes out on the 25th on Steam, but for right now, I couldn't find that on their page, but the developers seem like nice guys. I emailed them about some other stuff, and it seems like they've got their heads on straight when it comes to a game release, so I figured they would probably, I mean, they're not gonna make you pay for it twice. That would be super bullshitty and bad business. So anyways, a Druid's Duel. If you like board games, this is a very, very cool little game. Normally, I try to give a game at least an hour and a half to 2 hours before I do an episode on it. A Druid's Duel is no different. I got a couple of games this week, and this one actually stood out far and away as the one that I wanted to do an episode on because it really surprised me. It has the presentation of like a Facebook or like an iPhone game, much in the same way that Craft the World does, but once you get into it, the game is pretty entertaining, and I think that it is going to be competitive online. I'm not going to say it's going to be an esport because obviously it's a simple little game, but at the same time, I do look forward to see like what the online community is going to be surrounding this game, because really the main thing you want to do with this game is play other players. The AI is good, but it's not that good, and so I've beaten a lot of stuff on Adept, which is kind of like the middle difficulty. I assume maybe I should ramp it up, but I'm excited to see what online play holds. We're about 2 minutes in, so let's start the game. We're going to make a new campaign up and in here. I'm not going to do any of the text or any of the storyline. I'm going to leave that for all of you later on, but for right now, essentially all the game is, it's going to be a series of different grids that you play the game on, and it gets progressively more difficult. The AI has more advantages, or mainly it just takes advantages away from you so that you have to think through the process and figure out how the game works. The game is pleasant to look at. I like the artistic style. It's a little bit whimsical and childlike, but I think that works towards the whole motif that they're trying to develop within the confines of the game. And so, welcome to a Druid's Duel. This is going to be our first match right here, and this is the tutorial match that you start out with. The game is meant to be played in about 3 or 4 minutes, and so with a grid, typically if it takes you much longer than 3 or 4 minutes, you're thinking about it a little bit too hard. Once you get further into the game, there are going to be some predicaments that are going to give you some very, very real kind of confusion, but for right now, it should be simple. We control our druids very, very simply. We click on them. This number above their heads is how many actions they have. Down here at the bottom, you can see our abilities as a wizard, and then this little ability right here is your druid's ability that costs you mana. You have to kind of like channel it through him to help him get the ability done. So, with your mana on each turn, you get to choose whether you want to deploy more druids of varying types. There are 4 types of druids right now. You've got guardians, you've got wind riders, you've got snarl claws, and you've got... Ooh, this one turns into a turtle. I can't remember what he is, but I can't remember the name, but he turns into a turtle. It's like indestructible. And so you've got tactical layers in this game. Everything does something different. So for example, these little guys with the spears are scouts. When they turn into wolves, they get 4 moves. They can't attack, but they get 4 moves so that they can run around and claim territory. Claiming territory is the ultimate point of the game, so treat this kind of like a board game version of Cubert, where your goal is to get every single square to your color. Meanwhile, you have to kill the other druids and destroy them in order to do it, and they will be trying to do the same to you. So, our first character is called a guardian. He's got a spear. We're going to claim that territory, and we're going to claim this territory right here. We've got 12 mana remaining. I'm going to use that mana to deploy a Wind Rider because I really, really like them. And we're going to move our Wind Rider down this way. The Wind Rider's ability is that he can shoot 2 hexes, and so he can't shoot something that's right in front of him, but he can shoot something that's 2 range out from him in any direction. So you can kill with your druids. Obviously, the spear guys can only attack adjacent, but they can also attack diagonals. And the Wind Riders can turn into an eagle that can airstrike like anybody on the map, which is actually really, really, it's a fantastic ability. In fact, I find that the game is decided by how well you play your Wind Riders. Your Snarl Claws, your Guardians, and your other classes are very much supplementary, and they do need to be played right, but victory is taken by Wind Riders in my experience. So anyways, let's go ahead and end our turn. Down here in the bottom left-hand side, you can see the synopsis of how much mana we're going to get on each turn based on the properties that we hold. So the AI is going to take its turn. Their Wind Rider and their Guardian are going to move over to there. They're actually not going to be too aggressive about their turn. I was expecting them to be a tad more aggressive, maybe trying to grab some land with a wolf, but instead they deployed an extra Guardian. So what I would recommend right now is we're going to use this Wind Rider. Wind Rider is going to swoop this guy right here, and that's exactly how their airstrike works. His turn is done. And so if you're trying to protect yourself from Wind Riders, what you should always do is make sure that they are always within one space of a Guardian, so that anybody that takes a Wind Rider is automatically killed on the next turn by a Guardian. Treat your Guardians like your pawns. That's how I would say. They're not expendable, and they do need to be played right, and they have more of a effect on the trajectory of the game than you would expect. We're out of mana for right now, so my suggestion would maybe be, let's deploy another Guardian, just in case. Let's put him right there. That's alright. It's not the best play, but it'll work. Wind Rider is going to snipe our Wind Rider, which is no good. That's definitely a no bueno. However, seeing as we left our Wind Rider within one range of our Spearman, he now gets dealt with on his turn, and we can continue our play. I'm going to move down to there. This Wind Rider is actually going to have to be careful about the way that he plays because of this character right here. So in order to save that Wind Rider, I'm going to have to do that right there. We don't have enough mana left to convert one of these guys into a wolf and take a bunch of territory. We're going to play it slow for right now, though, and I'll put another Guardian right there. Let's go. Alright, so it's back to our turn. One of the things that I am thankful for is that the AI does play its turn very, very quickly when you're playing in the single-player campaign. Inside of the... I haven't had a chance to play multiplayer yet because there are games open, but there's usually only 1 to 2 games, and they're usually got people playing already, so I figure, I'm hoping that once this integrates with Steam, the community will blow up. That's what I'm really hoping, because if this game can get a very, very healthy fan base, it's gonna be good. I'm surprised by how simple the game is, yet at the same time, how fun it manages to be. For right now, we have enough mana to where we can do 2 conversions. I'm gonna convert him into a wolf, and I'm going to use him to swipe up as much of this territory as possible, so that now we're up to 32. We've all but basically won right now. If you were on the defensive right now, you aren't going to have a whole lot of options. What I would suggest is maybe eagling this guy, and that's going to be about the only move he has, like eagling this guy and trying to capture this over here to maybe swing things in the other direction. The game becomes much more volatile as you get further in. You learn how to play it a little bit more as the game changes. So as things get harder, there'll be different colored tiles that give different amounts of mana. There'll be collectibles that give one-time infusions of mana. There will be destroyable hexes that can be destroyed by one class but not another, but worth a bunch of mana if you can get that class out to there. And so there will become points of interest that you will struggle and grunt over. Let's start moving these guys over to here. I like to make a bridge over here, so maybe that's what I'll do. He's going to deploy a Wind Rider on his turn. We have to get on top of that Wind Rider like right this second, because Wind Riders are really, really good for seizing the initiative, but really, really bad for holding on to it. So let's go for... He can either hit him with an arrow right now, or we can... I'm actually going to get rid of him right now. I feel like it's the better choice. We can also use our mana to deploy a bridge right there, which we can then start moving people across. Over here, we'll start moving them around a little bit and claiming the last tiny little scraps of land that remain. They're only going to be able to get a little bit of mana on their next turn. Let's show off the Snarl Claw. How's that sound? There's a Snarl Claw. They look pretty badass. They've got themselves a helmet. They're basically your heavy shock troops. And I'll show you what they do. Actually, on this turn, they set us up perfectly for me to demonstrate what a Snarl Claw does. So a Snarl Claw, you will notice, has 2 actions. He can move twice, but he can only attack once unless you turn him into a bear. If you turn him into a bear, he gets 3 actions, and any of those actions can be an attack. And so there it is. He can cleave right through the enemy and continue claiming territory if he wants. I'm going to use our Wind Rider to claim that last space, and bam, there it is. We've completed. At the end, you're going to get this little summary of the game. Going up against players is going to be quite a bit more challenging because the difficulty, I selected Adept for the difficulty, which is kind of like the normal difficulty. Anything above that, they're going to play a little bit more aggressively with you, and in fact, I probably should have done a higher difficulty for this, but as you can see, the rounds are played very, very quickly, and in fact, I think this game would be conducive to also like an iPhone and a Droid release if they have the capabilities to do it. It might not be a terrible idea. I think they might be able to make a little bit of money off this game, even for like a $1 game that you can play like a hot swap game with somebody real fast over your phone. Might work out, might work out. Ideas for the future, or maybe it's already been done. You have choices when you go through the different campaigns. We're in high summer right now. Let's go to the right. I went downwards with my last play, and so I'd like to see what's this way. Alright, and so on this map, what you will find is that there's a few more obstructions. Snarl Claws can destroy these obstructions, in case you were wondering, but be aware that once you destroy this, it becomes a playable tile, and so technically there can be strategy in leaving some of these remaining so that you don't have to control them or worry about them. We're a little bit low on mana right now. We don't have much to do aside from playing an extra Guardian, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try and move these guys around to maybe snatch and grab a little bit of mana along the way. There we go. And there it is. You want to keep them away from these guys. They do, unfortunately... Actually, I should have moved these guys as a group because actually their Wind Rider can take out... He can snipe one of our dudes now. There's no way for us to get revenge. They won't have the mana to do it, but it is something that I would be worried about in the long term were we in the mid-game. Alright, so with 14 mana remaining, we've got ourselves 14 build. We're a little bit ahead right now. They're getting 12, we're getting 14. I'd like to deploy our first Wind Rider so that we can seize the initiative if we need to. I would also like to keep everybody grouped pretty close together just in case so that he can't snipe any of our territory without losing his character as well. You want to treat it a little bit like a checkers or a chess match where if they're going to kill one of your guys, you want to make sure that they have to think about the fact that you might be able to kill 1, 2, or 3 of theirs in return. Positioning is very important in this game. Okay, so yellow player is going to go into wolf mode and actually try and snatch up as much territory as he can. That's actually going to be a big deal because it's going to deprive him of the ability to use his Wind Rider. On this turn, I'm going to use my Wind Rider to snipe, well, yeah, I'm going to snipe over here real fast, and then we're going to keep plugging along this avenue over here. I'm going to try and keep people roughly near each other so that if snipes come across from their Wind Rider, it doesn't punish us too heavily, but it's 26 to 24 right now. The game is very much still up in the air, and I don't mean that in a punny sense. We are floating in the sky like a butterfly so high. Get our reading rainbow on right now. Oh, actually, I didn't think about that. And so, see, the AI manages to surprise you sometimes when you don't think about it. It's just me, or does it look like his feather is actually impaled in the side of his head? They may have just seized the initiative right here. Technically, we could do a full-on rush. These guys are very expendable. And so that's what I'm going to do. For right now, we're going to treat this as an impasse. He can't really do much right there. And then with our mana, we're actually going to play the exact same way that he did. Leaving Wind Riders. I left him a little bit exposed. We may get punished for that. I should have deployed him behind this line right here, but bad play is bad play. I'm not a master of the game by any means. Oh, he's got a Snarl Claw. That's not good. So, oh, I didn't realize he could shoot me across the gap either. We might get dealt with right here. This might not go so well. Alright, well, our goal now, I think, personally, becomes... Let's take him. Let's take him. Let's continue the forward movement. On this side, he's going to snatch up a whole bunch of territory. So what I would suggest is let's continue to just drop in as many of these little guys as we can. He can't shoot point blank, by the way, in case you were wondering. So let's solidify our position for right now and see what the AI decides to do. His Snarl Claw does remain a very real problem, so yeah, there you go. That's what I was concerned about. The Snarl Claw is more than capable of taking out that territory right there. And that leaves us at a little bit of a disadvantage, in fact. But not one that I think we can't work our way out of. I'm going to suggest we get rid of the Snarl Claw. We take that right there. We go 2 for 2. We continue to move some of this mana back into our realm. On this side, we're going to play for that right there. We did just lose a lot of positioning, though, so we need to be careful. And in playing damage control, I'm going to put a Snarl Claw right there, which effectively limits their ability to spawn anything right here. And I'm going to play a second Druid. Oh, I don't have that space right there. Oh, that's unfortunate. Alright, well, I don't have that space, so that's going to hurt us. If we had this space, I could box him in so that he has essentially what would count as a checkmate for the future. I guess I'll go right there. That leaves him at a diagonal, so he's still checkmated, I guess. This is all going to sort of depend how they choose to do their spawns. Oh, wow, they decided to mob up on him right now. Okay. Alright, that's fine. That's basically about the best mileage you can get out of a Snarl Claw right there. It doesn't leave us a ton of room to get busy. I would rather lose a cheap unit than a Snarl Claw, so I'll move that to right there. We are recovering. You'll see that the game is evened out at this point. And how I would recommend playing this for the time being... Let's claim on him, although we are going to lose this guy to this Wind Rider right here. And then... how I'd prefer to play it... Give me Wind Riders up here in the top end of the map. I'm going to start solidifying them behind the lines so that we can make a big offensive right here. Okay. I feel like he's got a lot more mana than I do, but maybe it's because I'm playing more special abilities than he is. It's even. So you can actually... I like the fact that the game gives you the opportunity to check on that. We're going to keep solidifying this ground over here. They have really, really made their position pretty unassailable on that side. I think my goal for right now, two options. I'm gonna go right there and try and force the Snarlclaw away from our boundaries, actually. See if I can maybe bait him this way. And if that works out, I'm gonna be pretty happy with the results. On this side, I'm gonna place a Snarlclaw right here for the next turn. And also a Guardian to protect our borders. I'm gonna start moving him this way. And we'll see what he chooses. Ah, he took the ruse. I'm not so convinced he would have taken that move, though. Oh, our Snarlclaw is going to have to do work on this turn. He's going to have to get real aggressive. Okay. That's alright. Take that right there. There it is right there. On this side, my goal would now be to steal as much territory as possible from our opponent. And so let's go ahead and realign him over here. Snarlclaw, sorry, bud. I'm going to need you to take some territory on this side. And then let's just solidify our position. Let's make sure that if anything else is going on, they can't spawn right there, too. That's going to give you mana if you capture it, in case you were wondering what that is right there. The little number, it gives you 9 mana if you capture the space. Essentially, it's to make minor points of contrition in between the two sides and give you things to think about while you play the game. On this side, we have options. We don't have any Wind Riders available, but I think that's what this turn is going to be all about. That's actually moved around, so unfortunately it's no longer claimable unless we do something like that. There it is. So we'll give ourselves some mana right there. That's going to pay us back for the bridge that we just paid for. On this side, my recommendation would be to remove him from our area. Let's drop some Wind Riders in so that we can make a big offensive push on the next turn. Let's get him off of our territory. I'm going to use the wolf to reclaim everything that they just took so that I can continue to put a big dent in their mana. I'm going to start moving him this way. We got a good play going right now. It was looking a little bit rocky for us at the beginning just because of a couple of bad turns that I made. Wind Rider's actually going to try and snipe territory from back there. That's not a bad play. That's pretty good. That's probably something along the lines of what I would have done. It was undefended and it's something that needed to be dealt with. On this side, we got a Snarlclaw that can protect him, and let's hope that his range, it does. His range goes back out to there so we can take the property back from our opponent. On this side, I'm actually going to try and take out his last Druid. And so there's that. Move the Snarlclaw along, kind of like re-solidify our points. They have a little bit of mana left, so we are going to have to fight on this next one. But the goal is to go in for the checkmate now, no matter where he spawns anything. Leave no area unguarded. And so you can see how the game follows sort of like a ebb and flow, where eventually one player becomes more powerful than the other, and then it's kind of downhill from there. But you do have those transitional turns that get very, very stressful in between, where you've got to make a quick decision. You've got to decide, you know, what the winning move is, I guess, and then we'll go in for the victory right there. And there it is. Victory. We lost a coin right there, probably due to the fact that the game took longer than it should have, but I was thinking a little bit too hard. I was getting my think on. Let's do one more game. We got time to do another one, and we'll talk about the things that this game does well, and the things where I think the game could have some improvement. So this is going to be the first map that we go up against where it's got different colored tiles. Different colored tiles are going to give you different amounts of mana, but suffice it to say it's a little bit the opposite of what you would expect, where green tiles give you the least, and kind of like these harvest tiles right here that are different colors give you more. We've got some free mana up for dibs on our first turn, and so in the spirit of that, I think I may go after it, possibly. Your mana does not carry over to the next turn, so it might not be a wise move. I believe, though, our best move on this turn is going to be to go like so. And whereas it may not help me much for right now, it will help me on the next turn by taking these brown squares. And so there it is. Let's move everybody forward. We're going to treat this as our home base island. And on the next turn, we'll figure out what we want to do. So Snarlclaw is going to take some property right there, knock over a bush with his turn. No other class can do that, I don't think. I don't think that the turtle guys can do it either. I don't remember what they're called. It's not giving me the tooltip right now. But the turtle guys act as an impasse. They're like the Waywalker. That's what it is. They're like sort of indestructible, I guess, as long as they're in turtle form. They like sit there. They're useful for like blocking off areas and forcing your opponent to move around you. It's an interesting play style, I think. I don't know if he can get out there right now. If he could snipe him, that would be really, really great. So his range is actually a little bit subpar for that. We can take this guy over here, which forces him on the next turn to use his mana in order to stop that from happening, I guess. So he has to turn this Snarlclaw in now and attack on this side. Not a bad plan. What I prefer to do is let's get on this side of the bridge maybe and kind of like split him in two directions, make him think, although we might lose... I think they can only shoot at a 2 range. If he can shoot at a 3 range, I'd be surprised. I don't think that he can. That leaves us with a tiny bit of mana left that we can deploy off in this direction. That seems okay for me. Actually, Snarlclaw is going to go after him, which is an interesting choice. I guess he went in terms of, like, land grabbing right there. I think that's what he was thinking about, is, like, where was his best land grab at. That does put me in an okay position to take out the Snarlclaw. They've got this island very, very well defended at this point, which makes me nervous. I don't want to get a massive units over here because I'm gonna get rid of the Snarlclaw for right now. He's a liability to me, and that makes me upset. And my plan right here was actually to play a character right there such that he has to play that way on the next turn. Then what we'll do is we'll try and claim some territory over here so that we can get a little bit of a foothold on this island to start, like, generating ourselves some resources. I'm going to send a couple of guys off this way. Well, they're not going to come across this bridge right now, I don't think, so I'm going to leave him where he's at. Oh, the Snarlclaw. Okay. Snarlclaw is going to become a problem. So we're sort of forcing each other's hand right now to do various things. And by doing that play right there, that was actually smart because that means I can't redeploy right there and create a checkmate on his Snarlclaw. That forces my hand in this regard to either go after him. Yeah. A problem play right there. We'll go right there. On this side, my goal is to be careful. And I just want to create a blockage right here. Something that he can't work his way around, no matter what he spawns. I'm going to take his land like so. And let's continue to solidify on this top position right here. We'll build a bridge on this side, which will give us another assault point. Okay. Ah, not a bad move. Not a bad move at all. Although I am going to counter that because obviously I can't allow that to happen. It's a counter blow that I didn't think about, but I am going to have to stop that from occurring. We've got a Snarlclaw over here as well, who's going to be in a really, really good position to cause us pain in the future. So I'll deploy that right there in case the Snarlclaw decides to go bear mode, and then 1, 2, 3, our Wind Rider, and then we'll get the free kill right there, and then we'll be in a position to retake everything. That one's a 9, so I'm going to take it. I should have gone wolf mode. I actually should have gone wolf mode with him and claimed the rest of this. Now he's still got a foothold right here, which then forces me to play sort of in this way, I guess. We'll put a Snarlclaw right here to stop him from playing whatever it is he thinks he's going to play. And then we'll play a Wind Rider over here so that we can make a big push on this position on the next turn. So he did go bear mode, which is what I figured. Oh, I forgot about diagonal movement. So big offensive on that side that's going to cause us all kinds of pain. We're actually going to swap positions a little bit right here on this turn. We're going to have to, in fact. So I'm going to drop a bridge right there. We're going to take that position. We will, in order to keep characters alive, I'm going to assail this position and try and deprive them of mana. So there it is. Mana deprivation is a go. I'm going to wolf mode him. We're going to try and just basically attack this island as hard as we can now, because they've supplanted us on that side. But I think we have the resources to fight back over here. Just kind of got to play it the way we got to play it. Let me give them something to look at on that side. Okay, so a big snatch right there. Definitely, it was going to happen either way, and we had to play the mana, so we really didn't have much of a choice. Unfortunately, that's kind of swapped us around on the islands here. However, it does give us a good play on that side, which then becomes... Well, let's go ahead and wolf mode out because we need to get over to this side. We need to handle our business back on this side. I'm going to try and deprive them of spawn points on this side as much as possible. We'll wolf out on this side. They are definitely on the losing side of the battle right now. I'm going to start dropping in some of our Wind Riders as well so that we can bomb them. But yeah, I like the things that the game does. I figure since we're getting towards the wane of the game, I suppose, we're on the back end right now. We're looking at the buttocks of the game. Oh, not a bad play. Not a bad play at all. That's going to be hard to supplant, but I think I've got a plan. We're going to be able to do this. The things the game does well is it is very much cerebral gameplay. You kind of got to look around and you got to think about all the possible counter plays as well as all of the positive offensive plays. So you got to play both defensively and offensively depending on where you are in the game. And I like the way that the units are fairly balanced right now. I think the only unit that I would fiddle around with at the moment is the Wind Rider. I think I would reduce his range by 1, maybe. And then that should pretty much, I think the Wind Rider is a little bit more useful than other classes, but they're still fine. There's still room for fine-tuning. I think the Snarlclaw does what he's supposed to do. He stops you from massing little units. He's basically the Zerg blocker. The little units are still useful because they can scout around and steal a lot of territory if you leave them unguarded. The turtle unit right here is great for blocking the enemy off. If they've got a bunch of Snarlclaws, you can just trap them in one island and just be like, ha, that's what you get, you bastard. The bridges affect the gameplay in that if the enemy is heavily blocking things, you can just kind of like make a new route. And so you got to watch out for that as well. I would say that there's a number of abilities down here that I haven't had the chance to move, but you have the ability to create bushes. You can kind of like move terrain around and do various things with these down here and convert terrains around. Very interesting way to think about playing the game as well. And so the game does offer you in single player a lot of ways to practice. You can restart your turn whenever you want. You can restart the combat whenever you want from the beginning. And usually you will see that you have lost by about halfway through the game and you'll know what you did wrong. You'll be like, all right, I need to fix this. On this side, let's go ahead offensively as possible. We want to hit these guys. It's going to be mana intensive. It's going to be expensive, believe you me, but I think we can make it work. On this side, the final goal is to put the nail in the coffin by stealing as much territory as possible while still depriving him of the ability to strike back. And so there it is. I could destroy that right there to give myself some more mana, but I love the way the game flows. I really do. The only thing that I don't like is that there's not a whole lot of ways to make a comeback unless you get lucky with fairies. Comebacks in this game, the beginning and the middle are the most important parts, and once you've lost, you've basically lost. Luckily, the game is short enough to where your average game is going to go like 8 minutes, 5 minutes in there, so if you've lost, it's not so bad. Like, you can jump back in and play again. So one thing that I also wanted to mention as a possible negative for people is that the game only supports 4x3 and 5x3 right now. There's no widescreen formats, so you will be playing it in a window or you'll be playing it stretched. So at the moment, I'm hoping they add widescreen support, but who knows. So the game is called Druid's Duel. If you want to check it out, it's $9.99 right now. I'm looking forward to seeing how it integrates with Steam and how that's going to revitalize the multiplayer. As of right now, the multiplayer is not jumping. I checked it at about 4 o'clock, not peak hours, but pretty close to when people are getting close to home from work, and there was only 2 games running right now. I'm hoping that once it hits Steam and it fully releases on the 25th, the game's going to have a lot of options open there for players to just jump into a game real fast, because the real game here is going to be in the PvP against other players, the cerebral gameplay against somebody else. My name is Splattercat, and this is Weekly Indie Newcomer, where I prefer to play little indie games that don't have much of a chance on the market for marketing and things like that. As my channel's gotten larger, I've noticed that I tend to focus more on smaller games because there are games like this that deserve a fair shot in the market but don't necessarily have the money to advertise themselves as such. The game is called A Druid's Duel. It's a very cool little simple game, and if you're a fan of board games, like I said, like checkers, Chinese checkers, if you like yourself some backgammon, if you like yourself some, what's the name of that game, Brigand's Chess or something like that. It's an old Roman game. But anyways, if you're into backgammon, Chinese checkers, if you're into checkers, anything of that kind where it's kind of like a game where it's light, but at the same time you can stare at the board for a couple seconds trying to make a good move, I think they've done a good job with the Druid's Duel, and I look forward, and I'm really happy. I look forward to seeing what it does when it goes live on Steam with its Steam integration, with its multiplayer, and I look forward to seeing if people enjoy the game or not, because it was surprising for me. It was very surprising for me. I'd love to see the animations get tooled up a little bit so that they have like a little breathing animation to make the board feel a little bit more alive. Maybe neutral players that sabotage. I don't know. I haven't gotten all the way through the game yet, so I'm not sure what the final mechanics are going to be, but maybe I'll check back in on it once the game comes out on the 25th. I'll see y'all later. Hi to everybody.